we're streaming.
Mine's in.
Okay, we're streaming.
And
you're going to refresh and let me know when it's really streaming.
Here we go, live now.
We're live now. Hi. Welcome. We have an audience tonight here. I hope we have some online eventually. We're a little bit late because of all the rain here.
Yay!
Yay! It was pouring Saturday night here. I wasn't here. I was in the Bay Area.
Snow on Mount Shasta.
And then we have snow on our mountain again. So snow on Mount Shasta. And it's October, so I guess it's really fall. And I guess we're all traumatized by that, which is why we're 10 minutes late. So we'll get over it. It sometimes snows in the mountains in the winter. Imagine. Caltrans, of course, the California Department of Transportation, is not so very terribly scientific about that fact, that it snows in the mountains in the winter. Every year they act like they've never heard of this before. Just saying. I grew up in the mountains all year round, winter, summer, and when it snowed in the mountains in the winter, no one was surprised.
Exactly.
We said, oh, it's snowing. I'll put on my boots and my warm jacket and my chains on my car and I'll go wherever I want to go. And when there was a lot of snow, they plowed the roads. Here, when it snows in the mountains in the winter, because they're so scientific about this, they have to have a meeting to decide. People are sliding off the roads and dying. What should we do? Hey, boss, how about if we plow the roads? No, let's think about this. We gotta think. What could we do? I know, let's get Al Gore on it. He's the weather guru. We'll have him fix it so it stops snowing in this era of global warming. I gotta get a little dig in there.
Wishful thinking.
So, scientific Caltrans. See, the people working and running Caltrans are a product of our current California educational system. I bet they all have degrees from, probably all graduate degrees from some California university.
They probably went to Yale.
Or Berkeley.
Involved in those trains.
No, I doubt it. I don't think back there they even know what a mountain is. I've been there. I've seen the things they call mountains in New England and the East Coast. I don't think they really do. So, no, I think the California dumbed down educational system, especially regarding science, is mostly to blame about the way Caltrans is repeatedly flunking things like fluid flow and weather and elevation and the seasons. We started talking last week when you weren't here, so you don't know this.
Unless you watched it.
That she didn't. But you're not supposed to remind the teacher about that more than once. He already asked her, and she's now blushing the color of her slacks. So, we'll pretend not to go there. What we talked about in a nutshell is that we, our school and our work, is getting a bit more rigorous. We are kicking things up a notch in terms of what we're going to be studying as a group, which means to keep up, you're going to be studying on your own. And the two big areas we're going into next are the Tarot and the Dreaming. So we talked a lot about science last week as a method of inquiry. We kind of reviewed the tea came out very good, by the way. I may just have
The
to
only
sit
thing
here.
extra was, little magic.
Yeah. Well, I hope the pear cobbler later is as good. So, yeah, and I hope that there's more of this because I doubt this will last until pear cobbler time.
Oh, and then there'll need to
The
be a refill.
organic, gluten-free Bonnie's Delicious Magic Pear Cobbler, which we get to have afterwards. tonight.
Okay, it's not gluten-free. It's multi-grain this time.
Sounds
Well,
yummy.
that went from a 10 to a 9.5.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave it at 10.
Okay.
You haven't had
I'm
it.
gonna rate it at an
Sounds
11.
So, we talked about the scientific method, and tonight we're going to kind of continue that. And one of the little epiphanies I shared with everyone, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about something like esoteric philosophy, which we are by definition in this school, or whether we're talking about something hard, cold, rigorous science, which we are by definition in this school. This school. I can't answer for any other school. But this one, we talk about hard science because it's all science, it's all physics. And if you have any difficulty understanding that, for your benefit, I recommend this book. It's called Understanding Physics. This is now published in 3 volumes in one. It used to be 3 individual volumes. It's written by Isaac Asimov, whose claim to fame, besides being a PhD biology or biochemist or something like that, he has published in every single category of the Dewey Decimal System.
Wow.
So this is a smart guy. I haven't published in every category of the Dewey Decimal System.
A challenge.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that for 20 years or so. I'm up to 2
That's a
so
start.
far. And I don't know how many there are, but he got them all.
Wow.
I've got, and there's lots. I mean, there's, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 dozen or more categories in the Dewey Decimal System. And I don't know how fine a detail they go down, but if they subdivided physics, for example, or anything fun like that. But no, I've only got 2. I've got my energy medicine book and I've got my gallstone book that are formally published, with a couple more to come soon.
Well, you've co-written some books.
Yeah. The whole thing about science is it can teach us a level of rigor. And now that we've gotten some of the basics under our belts, it's time to get more rigorous. I want to start with some cautions about the fact that there is a lot of garbagey junk science being thrown about these days. There's an old adage that if something looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks and swims and flies and poops like a duck and it hangs out at the pond with all the other ducks, what you have probably found is, in fact, a duck. That's pretty radical, but there it is.
Someone else killed her.
It's not scientific, but it's an adage, which you could extend into other areas, such as if it looks like brown, smelly stuff, and you slip and fall in it like brown, smelly stuff, then what you have probably found is brown, smelly stuff. Just like that old joke, right? Like, hey, Bob, is that dog poop? I don't know. Looks like dog poop, smells and feels and tastes like dog poop, so yeah, it's dog poop. So if it looks like junk science, probably is. So the new adage that I have created which is really good. I've already turned it into a meme and it's already on Facebook, is that science is not an answer.
That's a good one.
It is a method of asking questions.
I like that quote.
I like that too.
And that's where people are slipping up. Is you're going to see a lot of people, you haven't seen it already. There's a lot of junk science where people say, oh, it's scientific, and that's supposed to end the argument. It's all settled. It's science. No, it's not. Technically, there's nothing that's science. Science is a way of asking questions. It's a method of inquiry. And that's important as we go forward to know that.
Can we say it's physics?
Physics would be more accurate. But physics, like I said, physics uses the scientific method. Physics is the best collection of known laws of the universe for which we have a mathematical equation for things which can be measured. That sounds long-winded and scary, but it really isn't. Physics is defined as the science of the study of the interaction between matter and energy. That's what physics is. And so, that was an oven timer,
Yes.
which means hair cobbler.
This might be a good time to let you know that Melody and Sarah are online with us.
Melody and Sarah.
Hi,
Hello,
Melody.
Melody.
Hello.
You getting that rain up in your mountains too, I hope? And Sarah, how about down in Redding? Do we have any rain?
Red Bluff.
Red Bluff.
Red Bluff. Oh, you're not in Redding. Why don't? Oh, it's Cherie that's in Redding. It's one of those R towns. R town. He's a very. Okay. Back to science. That's what I'm good at. So the physics is the science of the study of the interaction between matter and energy, and it is the basis of all other scientific law. So if you want to learn chemistry, you first need definitions that come from physics. If you want to learn geology, you first need definitions that come from chemistry and then physics. And you can fill in any other science and trace it back to its core definitions. Even medicine and biology, much to the chagrin of medical doctors and biologists and physiologists everywhere, and it really is all just physics. But what's key is the fact that physicists and all other fields of science are supposed to be using that third grade scientific method. Unfortunately, they all seem to have forgotten it, along with their cursive writing. The scientific method is what? It starts with what?
A question?
Before the question, what came first?
An idea?
Why?
I hope because we think.
Theory?
About?
The universe.
And
all
how do
things
you
in it
perceive the universe?
by maybe sensing it through the.
Okay, close enough. Yeah.
She gets that A+.
Yeah.
It's observation.
Good.
Overachiever.
Throw herself out there.
You first are observing, you're witnessing things. And then we come up with that question. You know, like, what the heck is going on? Why does that always happen? When I hold a brick over my friend's hand and drop it, and he doesn't move his hand every time, he ends up with broken fingers. What's up with that? So first we observe.
Sarah got it.
Yeah. Well, I would expect Sarah to.
She's an observer.
So I'm not surprised, Sarah. Good for you. Good for you. First you observe. And after observing, you formulate a question that we call an hypothesis. And then what's the next step of the scientific method?
Your turn.
Comes up with an answer.
You gotta test
How? What was that?
it. Test it.
You test it. You run an experiment. Who is the... This one is not required. This is for extra credit. Who is the person who made that leap from the observation and a hypothesis into running experiments?
Was-
Also known as the father of modern science.
Galileo?
It wasn't female. It was who? Is that your final answer? Good job. Ooh. Galileo Galilei ran an experiment. Actually, he ran quite a few. My favorite was probably the Leaning Tower of Pisa drop a light object and a heavy object off the tower at the same time, and they hit the ground at the same time. Up until, well, he lived from about 1560 to about 1640. He died the same year Newton was born, and much to the chagrin of the conspiracy theorists regarding Newton being the reincarnation of Galileo, Newton was born before Galileo died. Sorry, guys. And
He
gals.
could have checked out early.
So, in that 80-year period, I don't know exactly when he ran that experiment. That factoid escapes me, but it can be looked up. So we'll call it 1600, which is a nice round number for the start of the scientific era. He ran that test. It was about gravity, right? The theory was heavy objects would fall faster than light objects. Eventually Newton came along, and everybody's probably heard of something called Newton's laws, right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't even... If somebody wants to volunteer that they know some of Newton's laws, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm not going to require you to have them memorized. I'm sure it won't be on the final exam.
Relativity.
You're about 300 years early.
Early? Oh, okay.
We'll come back. We'll come back to that very soon. But I like the way you think. No, what Galileo did is he said, I'm going to run a test. So he ran experiments. He looked through telescopes. Well, in order to look through the telescopes to see what was going on in the heavens regarding this big argument about is Earth at the center of the universe or is the sun at the center of the then known universe, I'm going to look. So he invented a telescope and he looked, and what he saw said, no, church is wrong, Copernicus is right. So the church said, sorry Galileo, we're going to burn you at the stake unless you recant. Just, okay, I really didn't mean it, sorry, I recant. And then he just kept writing and throwing his stuff out the window. He was under house arrest. Of course, his house was a villa, so it wasn't really tough. He just couldn't go to market. He had to send a minion
Yeah, exactly.
to market. But otherwise, he just kept writing and publishing and pretending that it was somebody else. But we don't. What Newton did was he came along and he added math.
Oh, right now.
Newton was the math guy. He's the one who took these observations of Galileo, and Galileo got pretty much everything right that he worked on. Newton, it's one of the 2 or 3 things Newton got wrong. He said that Galileo's explanation of relative motion could not be improved on. So of course, later Einstein had to improve upon it just to prove Newton wrong. Relative motion is if you've got a train going along at 10 miles an hour and you've got a car on top of the train going at 10 miles an hour in the same direction, that the motion of the car with respect to the ground is 20 miles an hour. It seems obvious to us. Back then, no, because Galileo added time to our measurements. He included time. He used pendulums to get very specific about time. He said so much weight, so much length of string, pull it over so far. That's repeatable. The whole advantage of the scientific method is it allows us to predict the future. That's the whole reason for it. If we couldn't predict the future, the Industrial Revolution could not have happened. We could not have invented steam engines and airplanes and rocket ships. And the way we predict that future is through repeatability in our experiments. We repeat things over and over and over until we have identified every variable that's affecting a system and we control for it. And then we run tests where we change one variable at a time. I can't tell you the number of times in aerospace when I was trying to teach young engineers not to blow themselves up.
That's a good lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially when you've got prior experience of going to work one day and watching some of your friends get blown up. That wasn't a fun day. So, yeah, I'm trying to teach these young hotshots that no, I don't care how much extra time you think it's going to take. We're not changing 14 variables at once and then change 14 other variables at once and then complain that the system isn't working right. I've got dozens of similar stories. But usually what happened, because when you are the boss, you have the authority to do this, is no, sit down, change one variable at a time, write a test procedure to go do this. Okay, great, I'll review it. Now go run this, and usually within 15 minutes, they would have the thing figured out, and 3/4 of the test we never had to run, because they followed the scientific method of inquiry of controlling their variables. So how does that apply to your work?
Controller variables.
That's a good one.
And do studies.
Yeah, we have to study, we have to read, we have to absorb information. Let's take meditation. Do you meditate in the same place every time?
I try to, but it's a good principle. It's good practice.
And in your same place, do you have the environment physically set up the same way? The same every time? Do you have distracting music on when you meditate? And is the distracting music different one day versus another?
Good question.
Because you shouldn't have any music on.
Mm-hmm.
No music is the right answer. That was kind of a setup question. Well, I don't know if my music is distracting. No, if you have any music, it's distracting. Because the goal of your meditation is to teach you to commune with your higher states of consciousness and not to allow yourself to be lulled further asleep by something that somebody else is pumping into you. Question.
What about like shamanic drumming? You know, things that are known to have a meditative beat and...
Yeah, shamanic drumming I would put in the category of it's not music, it's not distracting music. In fact, I would say it's not music.
Mm-hmm.
And shamanic, and I'm not saying that because I'm a piper trying to do the usual bagpiper thing of disparaging drummers. I happen to be one of those bagpipers who likes the drummers and is willing to ride in a car to the event with them. Because Scotland the Brave just doesn't sound the same if you leave out the drums. If it's good for Scotland the Brave, it's good for all the other songs we need drummers. So, no, that's not why I say that. I say that because shamanic drumming is supposed to be conducted at exactly 120 beats per minute. For those of you who are doing the math at home, yes, I know that's 2 beats a second. 120 beats per minute, exactly. Interacts with our brainwave frequency, so shamanic drumming falls into the category of repeatable science. Most of the so-called shamanic drumming CDs or MP3s or whatever we're downloading for music on YouTube these days, if it's not a drumming beat that has no other music and is at 120 beats exactly, then it's not shamanic drumming. It's meditative feel-good drumming But most of what passes for meditation is actually doing the opposite of what meditation is supposed to do. Right? Meditation is supposed to take you closer to the waking state, not further into the sleeping state. And all that, oh, I'm just gonna bliss out. And, oh yeah, get me my chai tea, and I'll sit here with my rainbow bubbles. No.
That sounds like fun, though.
I just won't call it meditation.
Right. It's not meditation. It may be fun, and it's not the work, and it's not scientific.
Bubbles aren't?
Well, if you can tell me the physics principle involved in the formation of bubbles,
What if they're 120 per hour? Bubbles.
It's the skater bug physics analogy.
yes.
Tenacity.
And the name of that is?
Is it tenacity? No, ten something.
Yeah?
It's a tension thing.
Yes. What kind of tension? You're right there. You're like, you got it. You just did one word missing.
Does it start with a 10? No.
Well, you got the tension word. That's
Right.
half of the answer.
Okay, go in.
Surface tension.
Yes.
Yay! She gets
See,
2 pieces of pie.
she's married to the physicist. That's why she knows these things.
She's pretty damn smart on her
And
own.
she has geniuses, that's
Well, when I met her, she wouldn't have known that.
I knew what skater bugs did.
Yeah.
She
did.
knows
I
many
don't even know what a
things.
skater bug is.
You know, it's that bug that skates along the top of the water. You know, it's got legs.
Mosquitoes.
No, it's
Mosquitoes
Mosquito.
can do it, but there's a much bigger insect that goes on the surface of the water, and fairly quickly too. And because of surface tension, and I'll let you look it up, in this book, we'll talk about it, I'm sure. You're basically, there's a cohesion between the molecules right at the boundary between the air and the water. And the electrostatic forces between those molecules are pulling them closer together. So at a microscopic level of 2 or 3 molecules, it's like there's a shell on the water. We don't see it, we don't know it, and when we stick our hands through it, we conclude that it's not there. But we weigh just a tiny bit more than those skater
They're
bugs.
just like Jesus. They walk on water.
Right.
Except Jesus did it using other physics. He used it by altering electromagnetic fields. You have to change your magnetism if you want to do that. I'm still learning that one. But I am confident that I will. That's another story for another day. So, Galileo, gravity, right? He made the test. Oh, wow. Well, that data is really interesting. So now what? Well, then Newton came along, and one of his laws was the universal law of gravitation. Great, we've got gravity figured out. F equals g times m1 times m2 over r squared, which is the difference between the masses. That tells you the force, and then with acceleration principles, we can compute where the planets are going to go. It's great, right? So now we know everything there is to know about gravity, right?
till you go to outer space.
No, outer space has nothing to do with it. It's actually, the math is easier with no atmosphere. No, we don't. Newton's laws explain the effects of gravity. They don't tell you why gravity happens. Now, Einstein, who, my little Einstein over here, remember, came along in the early 20th century, more than 100 years ago now, and in 1915 he published the general theory of relativity. He'd started with the special theory of relativity, which was the improvement on Galileo's laws of relative motion, because he found that at high speeds, approaching the speed of light, the normal space-time continuum breaks down. And then 10 years later, that was 1905, And then in 1915, he published General Relativity, which was his attempt to explain gravity, which was an improvement, and it explained things that Newton's laws could not, like bending of light around a massive object like stars or galaxies. But it still is missing a full explanation of the mechanism of action of how gravity works. I'll give you the secret answer, which is not universally agreed to by physicists anywhere. You get 10 physicists in a room and you'll have at least 15 different opinions on this subject. And they think I'm kidding, but none of those 15 will be correct unless somebody has read and researched the electrostatic theory of gravity. Gravity is just a very specific case of a broader law of electromagnetism. So gravity is technically not a universal force. It's a force of electromagnetism. And there's web pages out there, and that is not in this book. This is new. Asimov died a while back, and this book was published in... Well, I had a copy of it when I was in undergrad. So, anyway, this theory post-dates Asimov, and it post-dates Einstein by quite a bit. But it explains everything and doesn't leave any holes in it. And it's just, we're in that 2 generation of the paradigm waiting for the old curmudgeons to die, and then people will accept it. That's where we're at. We're in the 1st generation phase of that we need 2 generations to die phase. I'm already there, so I don't have to die.
There you go.
At least not over this. So that's an example. Even scientists and even physicists aren't always right. Galileo made mistakes in his published work. Einstein has made mistakes in his published work. And if Newton and Galileo and Einstein all made mistakes, then I think it's pretty safe to say that every scientist who has ever lived has made mistakes. The biggest mistake you can make if you're a scientist is what?
Report to the church.
There you go.
No. See, what Copernicus did was actually smart. He waited until he was dead to send his report to the church. On the
That's
planet.
really
And
smart.
then they couldn't kill him.
But
And then they couldn't kill him.
the church, they buried Galileo that he wasn't whole without his middle finger, and his middle finger sat in the church for a long time. And finally, the church forgave him or did something and returned the finger back to Galileo.
Okay, that's bizarre.
See, this is why I'm going to be cremated.
I hear that.
Someday when I die, if I have to die, I'm going to be cremated, and nobody gets to do anything with my body.
You'll probably just disappear like they did in Machu Picchu.
I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with that. But if I die a physical death here, I'm going to be cremated. And that way, the church doesn't get my middle finger. Unless they really... See, I don't understand that. Do you really want Galileo doing this for hundreds of years?
Right.
Yeah.
I think Galileo got the last laugh on
Yeah.
that.
I know, that kind of does sound that way.
But anyway, scientists can be wrong. And we should learn from that. But the biggest mistake they can make, I'll jump to it, is not accepting the fact that they could be wrong.
Rigid beliefs. Is
Yeah,
what I was
when
gonna say.
the rigid beliefs set in, and you're stuck in that paradigm that you're the flat earther, or you're the, by golly, this newfangled relativity stuff just isn't going to work, or this newfangled quantum mechanics stuff just isn't going to work. I don't buy it. God does not play dice. Who said that? Einstein.
Did he?
Einstein was absolutely hated quantum mechanics and the uncertainty principle. He absolutely hated it. He kind of grudgingly accepted it because he could read the theory, he could look at the math, and then he could do the problems, and the theory matched the experimental data. Right? It's that experiment thing again. But when you start throwing out experimental data and only cherry picking the data points because matches your preconceived theory, then you stop being a scientist. Right? One of my pet peeve fields where this is rampant right now is climate change. There are two schools of thought. One is that man-made pollution is causing global warming, and the other is man-made pollution is not causing global warming. And both sides of that argument are wrong. But tonight's not the global warming and climate change article. It's coming soon. Probably right after the first of the year, I'm going to be doing a series on that. I'm gathering data right now. I'm doing my research. I keep putting this off. I keep hoping somebody else writes the definitive treatise on summarizing climate change so I don't have to. I mean, I've got this big fat book waiting to be published over here right now, and on health and spirituality, and I kept hoping somebody else would do that. And they did. I've got my Gallstone book now. I'm into the fine-tuned editing. I have a rough draft. This is the second edition of this book, and it's been needed an update for about 3 years. And I originally wrote that book because nobody else had. I went to half a dozen bookstores looking for the definitive Gallstone book that was accurate and holistic and natural, that I could take off the shelves and say, here, just go do this and you don't have to have your surgery. And you look up cancer or heart disease or arthritis or thyroid, you name it. And there's dozens of books on that on the market. And when I wrote this back about 10 years ago, there was nothing. There's a couple others out there now, besides mine, but I still think mine's better because it's more at the root cause. But I keep wanting somebody else to do it. And I keep getting stuck doing it myself. So every book I've written, it pretty much falls into that category. And so I've got a couple physics books first, and then I've got a climate thing I got to do. And I'm going to try not to make it a whole book. I'm going to try to just keep it like a short paper length and get that out there because it's, yeah.
It seems to me that climate change is part of life. It's been happening for thousands and thousands of years, and we're just taking it personally. And, it's like we are the ones that decided, to live in floodplains and on cliffs over the oceans and, in places where there's no water. And, the thing is that we're taking this personally, but it is changing and it is warming per se. It's been warming for the last 10,000 years.
Well, yes and no. Mostly yes to what you said. Yeah, we're taking it personally. Climate is changing, and it has changed many times, and it's oscillated a little bit, or it's oscillated wildly, and we're going into a period where it's starting to oscillate wildly. So you go to the summers and you say, and this is, let's say, before the man-made interference started, which is the elephant in the living room nobody's talking about with respect to climate change. And so a low amplitude sine wave and a high amplitude sine wave have the same average. But the low amplitude sine wave, let's say this is yearly temperatures, has a much different effect on the climate than a high amplitude sine wave. And what we're getting now is a high amplitude sine wave. And I just downloaded some stuff today, in fact, on different quotes by famous climate scientists over the last 50 years. And everyone's saying it's dire, this is going to happen. Some say it's going to get so hot that life won't be possible. Others that it's going to go back into an ice age.
I've heard that one.
And none of it has happened. So basically right now, my opinion of climate scientists is that they're all, 100% of them are 100% wrong. None of them are right. None of them are being scientific about it. And yet it's a big, emotionally volatile political issue. And policy changes costing billions and billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, are being made on the junk science. This is why it's such a big pet peeve of mine in terms of junk science out there in the world. And the laws of physics are pretty unforgiving. The laws of physics are the same for Republicans and for Democrats. They don't care. The laws of physics don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody who's ever watched a rocket blow up on the launch pad has had a very real come to Jesus moment saying, darn. That's usually not what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's usually a little more involved in
Especially when there's people on board.
Yeah,
doing
well.
that.
That's happened a few times too, and I watched it. So the key is, if you're going to be a scientist, you call yourself a scientist. My attitude is prove it. Want to be a scientist? Prove you're a scientist. Do research, gather data, follow the scientific method. You run the tests. When you evaluate all the data, not just your carefully cherry-picked data points, then you get to go back and say, was my hypothesis correct or not? And when you're running tests and you get inconsistent answers, then there's variables that you have not controlled for. You have to identify and control for all these variables. And that's just not being done in climate science. It's not being done in most of modern medicine. It's not being done in a lot of engineering fields and even some of the non-fuzzy subject fields, hard science like physics, engineering, and chemistry and others. Because they're ignoring data. In fact, they're ignoring lots of data. And so the lesson for us in this work that we're doing is we have a hypothesis that this world we see around us is not all to the universe that there is. That there are additional planes of reality, that we can communicate with those planes through proper meditation techniques, that we can send our consciousness there to learn things that are not available here, and use that information to hopefully improve our lives. That there are ways of achieving what some of the ancients have called transcendence, what others have called liberation, what some call ascension, and basically transcend the limits of this physical earth plane. So that is our hypothesis doing the spiritual work. So if we want to accomplish any of that, then we have to be real and we have to be honest with ourselves. And if we've been given meditations or qigong exercise and we've been told do this for 81 days in a row and your abilities will change, and you've never gone more than 10 days in a row, and then you lose track and you have to start over, then you're not being a scientist yet. That's the key, is you are there in your body every day. I'm not there. You can print out a picture of me and with pointing my finger out at you and put it on the refrigerator, which I actually had a couple patients do once upon a time when they kept listening to me badly. People would pay me $100 to come in every month and have me tell them, "You ate what? Why was it even in your house?" You know, and so they would put a picture on the refrigerator door. You know, sometimes they'd have spouses who insisted on eating bad food or whatever. So, okay, make them buy it with their own money. You don't buy it and cater to them eating bad food. And sometimes they would do that. But yeah, they put a picture. So I can't be there every day when you're supposed to be meditating. I'm not going to be there every day when you're supposed to be journaling your dreams. You know, how many here in the room journal dreams this morning? How many people wrote in their journal, "I don't remember any dreams this morning"?
Yes.
Same for the people online. Okay. There'll be a little bit of lag. Some who...
I wrote my journal today. Does that count?
I'm gonna write my dream tonight because I still remember it.
Okay. So, what I've told you is you need to do that every day. Even if it's, "I don't remember any of my dreams last night, period," and then start writing that whatever else comes into your head, even if it's, "Oh, I need to go shopping and do this," and then there was the kid with the red hat, and then we did, wait a minute, red hat? Who's the kid with the red hat? Oh, and he was playing with a ball. Just start writing anything. And you're going to train yourself. 2 a.m. this morning, I was up writing my dreams. And I was tired because I went to a conference in the Bay Area. I had to drive back, and it was a long day. So I went to bed early, and I was like, well, and 2 a.m. It's like, oh man, I gotta go write this down. This one's significant. And it was. I didn't have a chance to talk to anybody about it. But it's like, oh man, I so wanted to stay in bed. Sigh. Of course, once I get out and I write like a page and a half of the book notes, usually if I get a page and a half, that's good. I'd have a page and a half of just the single bullet points of the main points of the dreams. When I go back and write it down, for real, it's probably going to be like 6 pages.
Wow.
It's long. It's like one of those transformative ones. So, yeah, you have to do it. But I'm not going to be there in your bedroom. Yvonne, write your dream down.
And that's what you're going to hear in your head.
You're
tomorrow morning.
The person who is in your bedroom, who is going to be saying that, is you. You have to be the one to say that, and you have to be the one, and you have to be the one, and you have to get up and it's like, oh, that son of a gun. Darn it. And then you're going to be wide awake for an hour, in which case you might as well just start reading or meditating or doing something else. Because you're not going to get back to sleep.
So can I ask you?
Yeah.
You physically get up to go write the dream?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I read in the Casey book was, don't even get out of bed, don't even turn on a light, just scribble it down, even if it's writing over itself, because more will come to you that way.
I've heard that theory.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the reality that I'm a doctor. Okay, my handwriting's so bad.
You took that class in medical school.
No, I took that class in grade school. I'm kind of proud of the fact. I can't remember if it was 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade, somewhere around there. It was the last time we got graded in penmanship. And I remember this vividly. I brought home a report card with 9 A's and 1 F.
Uh-oh.
The F, of course, was penmanship.
And it hasn't changed.
My parents were horrified. What will the neighbors think? Because they sat me down. I was getting the talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Parents there, I'm sitting here looking up at them and wishing that they would just go away and leave me alone because I wanted to read something. It's like, what will the neighbors think that you got an F? It's like, don't tell them.
I know, right?
And then they're like, oh,
From the
well,
mouth of a babe.
no, it's like, but this is so important. Handwriting is so important. It's like, well, they must have been able to read my handwriting well enough to know that all my other answers were right, because I got A's in everything else. Oh, Shafbot, he got us again. I could just see him. It's like, what are we going to do now? But it's important. It's your best impression you make in the world. You've got to be able to write neatly. Well, if it's really important, I'll type it. And they're like, he knows how to type. I taught him. He's heard me say if it's important, he's typing. I've already seen him hunt and peck and type important things. Oh, just try harder. Okay, Mommy and Daddy. I'll try harder. Okay, good. Go play. And I could just see that. Oh man, he got us that. We got to not bring this stuff up, kind of stuff up again. He's got us figured out on that one. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't think they'd ever stop talking about. Who cares if it's important? I'll type it. You know, where's my physics book? You know. And anyway, so no, that won't work for me.
Okay.
And I have enough respect for Bonnie and her sleep challenges sometimes that if I get up and turn on the light,
that was the key.
no, sometimes she has challenges.
Oh, okay.
Not always, but enough so that if I get up, I turn on the light and start writing and bouncing on the bed, it's going to wake her up. So I'm pretty good at slinking out and coming out here. I'll have my journal here tonight when I go to bed, and I write. I have proof. From here to there is what I wrote at 2 a.m. this morning on this dream. So you have to do that. I'm serious. You guys out there in internet land have to do that every day. You have a question?
Yeah, just comment. We went to a conference earlier this year, and it was weird. It was I had no intention on going into this class, and because there was 50 courses every hour, and so I had better choices, but I ended up in this class called something about 3 a.m. And the one thing you should all know is that there is some real facts about cycles and being in the right frame of mind that you're going to be getting some of your downloads. What I thought was interesting, because she was the girl teaching the class, she was really adamant about getting up and turning on a light even and writing down, is that it's not just your dreams. If you wake up at all at 3 a.m., you should get up and have a meditative moment, light a candle, sit down, because you have a download coming through, and it may not be in a dream form, it could be in another kind of form.
Dr. Wayne Dyer said that too.
Yeah. So, and then we've also known that in the past we have, in the past they used to have early sleep and late sleep, that people would get up and have a meal or have sex or do whatever and be up for a while and then go back to bed, especially, when everybody went to bed when when the sun went down in the winter, you have a long night. And so there is a body rhythm, and there is some science there.
Yeah. The 3 a.m. thing is interesting. There, as our chi, our energy, the big waves of it cycle through the body, the starting point is 3 a.m.
Interesting.
That's where the whole thing starts, and the next day at 3 a.m. So it has long been known by philosophers and psychics and gurus and shamans that 3 a.m. plus or minus is the best time for getting spiritual communion.
I heard it's the golden hour.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So I kind of laugh when I hear people complaining about, I keep waking up at 3 a.m. I think, well, why don't you get up and do something with that? Mm-hmm. I'm not the least bit sympathetic when people complain, I want to get in. So mine came in early this morning. I got it at 2. And I'll bet you didn't even know I got up for a half hour and did that.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm getting better at not waking her up. That's why I do it. And if I lived alone, I would just roll over, turn on the light, and start writing.
And if I lived alone, I wouldn't have 3 cats, a dog, and a parrot in the bed with us.
The parrot
This was the parrot in the bed.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa.
Didn't know that. Oh, okay. So no parrot?
No parrots.
Really? Oh man, but the chickens are okay.
She draws the line at goats.
Right. Dogs,
We don't even own
dogs
goats
over
anymore.
110 pounds.
We don't even own goats anymore. So
Here
we're
they
good
eat
there.
everything. Okay.
I might let the llama in, but
Greco's
nice
cool.
pet.
Our llama is cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to be pushing you guys
Girls.
to girls. Guys as in like humans. Those of you who are still human, I'm going to be pushing you.
I'm not human.
Close enough. You're still human. You're working on it, and that's good. We'll talk about how to not be human anymore. You're supposed to be reading. The Coyote book, if you don't have it yet, you're forgiven for not having read. I made excellent progress again today with this editing project.
Good.
Another week, and I'll have it back to him, and then you will buy it from him.
I just got the gold book in, so I started that.
EJ, yes.
Yes, you
That one's important. Just to put them in perspective, because I know I get asked this periodically, is the 2D Unfortunate books tell you, in as much detail as we could get at as somebody who was in an esoteric organization 100 years ago, what is an esoteric school, what is an esoteric organization, what is the nature of the great work, without actually telling you what the great work is. And then training and work of an initiate to the best degree possible without totally scaring you away is how much effort, how much work, and what kind of work is required to get you down your path and to claim that knowledge of your true will and then how to do it. So those two kind of set the stage. Coyote's book is about the Toltec path and his, with a lot of other esoteric examples thrown in there. But when you analyze it very carefully, that's the way that's his core Toltec philosophy. It is the core Toltec philosophy, the way he presents it. I present it slightly different. Couture presents it slightly different. And EJ's book, The Human Biological Machine as a Transformational Apparatus. Nothing like a simple title. Really suck you in. There's 2 or 3 main themes in EJ's book. The first one is to basically convince you that you're not awake. And then how to wake up. We are this divine essence animating temporarily human biological machines, these bodies that have been specifically bred and modified over time to have a nervous system that is compatible, more and more compatible, with hosting our spiritual essences. And that evolutionary process has been ongoing for some time, and it's not done. The creation of the universe, the creation of humanity is not done. So EJ's book is crucial in learning to place the human biological machine and its core desires, which have a tendency to limit our spiritual work, to place all of that under the conscious control of your essence, your essential self, that eternal self, which is key, because it's that eternal part of you that knows your true will. Hear that? You may not hear it online. That is the sound of rain on my metal roof.
I like that.
Lovely thing to sleep to. Huh?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And after all our heat waves this summer, artificially induced, I must say, and all our fires, many of which artificially caused, by the way, nevertheless, they still burn things. This rain is very welcome. Very welcome.
Good snow.
Don't go there.
What's that?
What if it's good snow?
Well, it did on the mountain, so hopefully it will more.
And you know what? It's fun if it snows on the mountain.
Right.
We don't mind that. at
We
all.
have a deal with the mountain gods. 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet. You can snow all at once
I
about
like
4,000 feet.
I'm gonna
That's our-
support you.
although I now own a snowblower.
And he wants to play with
Which
it.
you didn't even get to use last year
I
because there
used
was no
it
snow.
once. Yeah, I cranked it up for a little bit. The second snow, it was only 4 inches.
My housemate says it's like wrestling with an elephant.
A
Snowboard.
snowblower? That's because they have the cheap one. I got such a deal on mine. I got the top of the line snowblower at the bottom of the line price.
Nice.
And it works fantastic. So I scored. So EJ's book is very scientific. The whole goal is to predict the future, right? You heard me say that's really the goal of science. And we do that through what we call repeatability. You set up the same initial conditions, you run the same exact experiment the same exact way, you'd better get the same exact results. If you don't, what's wrong? I just told you 20 minutes ago. What's going on if you get different results?
Your repeatability's off.
Okay, that's a description of the end.
Too many
Why?
variables?
Say that again.
Too many variables?
Yeah. There's other variables affecting your setup that you have not identified and control for. So, you run it again until you start looking for the variables. Now, the variable in question might be that Enrico Fermi is eating lunch at the train station across the street from the physics lab.
Who?
Enrico Fermi, famous Italian physicist, but he was a theoretician. He was not an experimentalist. He was allowed to write papers and do math. He was not allowed anywhere near the physics equipment. Because every time he walked into a physics lab,
Oh, right.
things stopped working. And one day at the train station in Copenhagen, which is right across from the university, people were in there running or trying to run a physics lab, and everything was going fine. And at 12 noon, things stopped working. Equipment wouldn't work. They got different answers, and what was going on. And this went on for like an hour. And people were saying, if I didn't know better, I'd say Enrico Fermi was here. And at 1 o'clock, everything started working again. Then they found out that on that particular day, Enrico Fermi was on a train that stopped at the station. It was in the station for an hour, and then he left.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So that's one you always have to account for too, is where is Enrico Fermi?
So that's going to be my excuse. It's Enrico Fermi.
There you go.
Enrico Fermi took
Well,
it.
everything was going great until Enrico showed up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Enrico
So-
Fermi ate my homework.
Yeah. I'm just reporting,
Journal.
right? I'm not saying he had anything to do with it. I'm not saying he had anything to do with it. It might have been the sunspots. It It might have been
I'm going with the Palladians.
at lunch.
Rico.
The cleaning woman sat down on the power box and caused power fluctuations in the output of the power going into the experiment. We don't know. But we do know that between 12 and 1, Enrico was at the station, and between 12 and 1, everything stopped working.
That's
Really happened.
Really interesting.
I think that was in the book 30 Years That Shook Physics by George Gamow, who was a nuclear physicist. He did the nucleus of atoms. Yeah, is there a question?
Serenity says hi.
Hi, Serenity.
Hi.
Are you
Hi.
watching this? You would like that book. It's
Everybody
called,
wave. Say hi, Serenity.
Did you switch?
Yeah.
So, Serenity, there's a book that your mom would love to get you for Christmas called 30 Years That Shook Physics. It's about how the modern physics revolution happened, and it's really cool, and it's going to help you with your energy work and the economy. Okay? That's the hook. That's what you tell your mom, and she's not going to be able to say no. So it's 30 Years That Shook Physics by George Gamow. It looks like it's spelled Gamow because it's Gamow, but it's Russian, and it's not a W, it's a double V pronounced V. George Gamow. Almost like two F's, technically. He says with his expertise of 1 year of Russian language in college 35 years ago, and hasn't cracked a Russian language textbook since. But I do know that. So, yeah, you need to, and, Serenity, tell your mom every day to journal her dreams, every day to meditate. So that's the level of rigor I'm looking for, is you've got to do it. Because we've got places to go and stuff to do, and when I get a few more of you a little further up, then I'm going to start telling you what we're going to be doing. That might not happen this year. It might not be till next year.
No, that's just a couple months away.
Yeah.
Well, there's something coming up a couple months away, but that's not the thing we're going to be doing.
I mean, next year's a couple months away.
Right. So, yeah. Yeah, some of you will be ready for your level 4, and we'll get your level 4. But that's just to get you more proficient in doing this work and using these Toltec consciousness tools for something else.
Okay. Can you repeat the name of that book, please?
Understanding Physics by Isaac Asimov, or 30 Years That Shook Physics by George Gamow.
Got it. Thank you.
She's probably already found it and ordered it online.
No, but I'm making it easier later if I didn't order it.
There is.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt your flow, but you had said you were talking about EJ being very scientific, and I would say I've found that to be true. I mean, he's spent his whole life, he's very thorough in what he does with everything, whether it's playing the flute or whatever.
Get those anyway.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. EJ is a great example for anybody doing this work, and you want to do it scientifically and rigorously, because we're blending science and philosophy here, and that's important. Since I'm telling you things that you might read, there is a book that, if you're interested in this sort of thing, is called Medical Nemesis by Ivan Illich. And it's about how among other things, problems with the conventional medical system. So this is less directly approached, but other than good examples of rigorous thought process that Illich used. And in this book, he compares the modern medical profession to religion. They both speak in Latin, they both wear special robes, they both have special accoutrements they drape around themselves. They both have special books that they get to look at and the common people don't. The common people are expected to take everything they say verbatim without question. And he does a very good job of walking through that logic and thought process. And I now extend his principles, the medical nemesis principles, to just scientific nemesis, not medical nemesis, scientifical nemesis. Nemesis. Because pretty much every scientific field is trying to get away with that garbage these days. And it doesn't matter whether it's engineering or chemistry or environmental science or climate science. They're all pulling that unscientific garbage. They're all trying to advertise themselves as expert because, well, I'm a scientist. I said it and it's scientific, therefore it's right. But remember my new adage I've created, which is, science is not an answer. It is a method of asking questions. And it only works if you rigorously follow the scientific method. You throw out the scientific method, you throw out data, you make up data, you blatantly forge data, and you're not being a scientist anymore. You're trying to browbeat people into accepting what you want to say and the position you're taking simply by hanging the science sign on the front of it. Like pulling out the sign. Oh, it's science. Oh, well, I'm sorry, let me back up. That's going on, and I want you to be aware of that. And you need to be aware of it when dealing with philosophical things as well, whether it's a religion or a shaman or a guru or a new age channeler or anything. And my challenge to you is, don't believe anything I tell you. Go research everything I tell you. I tell you there's other planes and here's how you can access them. Go do it. It's not enough to say, oh, well, yeah, there's other planes, I'm done. And that seems to be what some people package as spirituality. They package that as like, oh, well, it's done, right? I bought my yoga pants, and I'm a vegan, so that means I'm spiritual, so I'm done. I've got my man bun. I don't know how to wear a man bun. I don't know how to make a man bun. And I guess now there's a throwback movement.
That's up here.
Oh,
Yeah,
see,
that's right.
I didn't even know that. When I wear my ponytail when I'm doing certain types of work, especially like outdoors running chainsaws.
Good thought.
Yeah.
Safety issue.
Safety. And if I want to have the appearance of not being a complete barbarian, it's part of that shamanic shape shifting I can do. So I was down in the cities this weekend trying to pretend to be a little bit civilized, joking with the people that, contrary to what those who live in the Bay Area think, they really don't live in Northern California.
Right.
I live in Northern California. You live in Central California. And if you don't believe me, go north for 350 more miles, and guess what? You're still in California.
Exactly.
A third of California is north of the Bay Area.
Exactly.
And I got a few good laughs out of that, and I'm making progress at retraining the big city folk. Because now I've got more of them scheduled to come up here.
That's the black hat thing.
Yeah, I wore my black hat.
I knew you did.
Yeah, I wore it, and they're like, "Ooh, nice hat." Oh, yeah, go. I pulled the card that the freeway runs both directions, and they should come visit more, and I now have a visit from the Grand Poobah scheduled up here in 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Poobahs
That's the way I work.
don't get around very
Yeah.
much.
And so this whole concept that we have to be scientific isn't that necessarily that we're going to be measuring things, although we may. It's the rigor. It's probably the best model of a rigorous approach to a disciplined thought process that most of our society will understand and relate to. 3rd grade science classes teach the scientific method. 3rd grade, I don't know what else they teach in 3rd grade these days, but they didn't teach philosophical arguments. They dropped the whole field of rhetoric, which is the field we're talking about, out of education sometime about 100 years ago. Rhetoric is a field of inquiry. It is a method of inquiry. It's how you compose logical thoughts that go from one to another.
Well, the rhetoric from the politicians, there's nothing logical about that.
No. See, that is a misuse of the word rhetoric. Rhetoric has been misused because we stopped teaching rhetoric. Rhetoric is a field of examination on how to put together logical, coherent thoughts.
Oh, okay.
But politicians, almost all of them, if not all of them, well, I'm going to leave it at almost all of them because I'm open to the theory. I didn't say fact. I'm open to the theory that there may be a politician somewhere who actually is sincere and good. The rest of them aren't. There might be one somewhere. Yeah.
I liked what Mark Twain said. Some people are idiots. Some people are in Congress. But I repeat myself. Mark Twain says that it's been around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that, and it's been a long time since I've heard that, and I like it. Good for Mark Twain. I can't be there every day when you have to get up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. and write in your journal, whether it's a dream or anything else. You're the one who's going to be there. You're the one who needs to meditate. You're the one who needs to practice the skills we've taught. You're the one who needs to continue reading the books I've assigned and then going on wherever your intuition leads you to add knowledge. You're the one who needs to learn to follow the synchronicities in your life.
Mm-hmm.
What I can tell you is there is a reason for all this. And for us to be successful at accomplishing that reason eventually, I am looking for you to kick it up a notch. Now, it's a little unfair for you.
No, just
In week number 2.
Sign the line.
Right.
Just say Rico first.
Right.
I'm gonna Rico you.
In week number 2, it's a little unfair to you that I'm telling you to kick it up a notch.
Oh, she could do it.
But what I'm telling you is, you grabbed on hold of the train went whizzing by, you grabbed a hold, you're on the train, so yeah, we're all going to be trying to kick it up a notch.
I'm here for the ride. So.
No, she could do it.
But I do have a question about
Yeah.
the 4 books.
Yeah.
The gold one already came in. The other one, 2, will be in this week.
Mhm.
And then, so the question I have is there a particular order I should read them in to get the maximum benefit from them?
The best order to read them is the order in which you obtain them.
Gold first it is then.
if I were going to suggest an ideal order to read them, I would probably start with the 2 fortune books.
See, that's kind of what I felt on an intuitive level.
And it's one of those chicken and egg things with those two. One is, if you want me to pin me down and twist my arm behind my, oh, stop, that's the bad shoulder. I would say do esoteric orders in their work first. Training and work of an initiate second.
Okay.
And then at that point, it's either or. Either EJ's or Coyote's book.
Well, where's the American Book of the Dead going to fall in that? Because she said that was important.
There's 528 important books you could read.
Yeah.
Only those first 4 are required. It depends on you and how far you want to go and in what direction you want to go. For any kind of shamanic work, the best map of the macro dimensions we have is EJ's book.
Okay.
So if you want to start learning where you're at when you're meditating and where you're at when you're dreaming and where you're at when you're having strange visions, where you're at when you're walking through the supermarket and the whole space morphs and now you're in a shopping mall on the other side of the planet or on another planet, EJ's book is the best roadmap
Cool.
for that.
Okay.
The Human Biological Machine?
No.
No.
No, that's one of the for acquire for. I'm just talking
Yeah.
about the ABD.
ABD, yeah.
So yeah, that one. And then it really depends on what got you here. What got me here was physics and history, especially the history of science, and energy medicine.
It's her fault.
Partly,
I was sitting by.
but I'm the one who found her. I'm the one who found her.
You're the one that wanted a mind-blowing experience.
Yeah. I said that. I wanted a month. I came out of another relationship. I was newly single. I was putting it out there. What I really want, and I used the term mind-blowing experience.
Yeah, and you two were doing winter solstice too. That's coming up.
Yeah,
There you go.
They at the exact same time.
Nice.
on opposite ends of the continent.
Nice.
Mind-blowing experience.
Ask and ye shall receive.
I did.
You
But-
manifested.
It was an experiment, right? At that point, we were both new to doing ritual and stuff, and what I found is if something manifests in 2 weeks after you've put it out there, that you're on to something.
Now
And-
Shasta's much faster.
Yeah, or less.
Yeah.
It can
Oh,
Mhm.
much faster.
I mean, it can happen almost instantaneously,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
which is like, wow. Yeah.
2 days.
But that's from experimentation too, you know,
Yeah.
by charting the
Yeah.
results. And
So yeah, keep records of all of that.
Melody
Okay.
said he's blushing.
What's that?
Melody said you were blushing.
You're still red.
Yeah,
You're
that's the
still,
good stuff.
and you're still getting your mind blown. Too, aren't you?
I won't tell you what I'm getting blown.
You're so fat.
Now look who's blushing. So, finish reading this stuff,
Okay.
okay? Keep the books with you,
I'll
read
pull
every
my
chance you
finger
get. Finish reading these books, write your report, and then let's move on.
Okay.
That's what I'm challenging you all to do. Just get it done, and let's move on.
The report's just a summary of.
Don't tell me what's in the
What it
book.
meant to you.
Yeah.
This isn't a
How
high
it
school
affected-
level book report.
How it affected.
I want to know how it
Like that.
affects you, what you think of it. This EJ Gold guy's full of crap. Why did I have to read this? I've already heard that verbal comment. And they were still on the introduction.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So, or the Coyote guy's full of crap, or this Dion Fortune, she's, writing in this 150-year-old style, all of which is true, but focus on the content, not the mechanism of delivery, and and tell me what you got out of it. Tell me how it affected you. Tell me if there's things you think you will be able to use. Tell me how your perspectives on anything might have changed because of it. But yeah, I've read each of those books numerous times. I don't need you to tell me what the book says. I want to know about you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what needs to be in the paper. So yeah, what's today? October 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, October 31 is the deadline. I would like all those reports.
You want to have all 4 books read in a month?
Yeah.
If they don't even have them yet?
Well, okay, the one that you don't have yet can wait. But the other 3 are widely available. Shoot for a month.
And I was thinking by the end of the year. When
Yeah,
you
right.
read, huh?
Yeah.
Some of these
Okay.
people have had them for a year. And
Some
others
of you have had them for a year, so let's shoot for the end of the year.
Okay.
Okay.
I would be happier with a month.
A book a month might be reasonable.
We're not speed readers.
I can be,
You,
but if
you
I
slept
really
last year, right?
No.
You didn't sleep last year. Then you're used to not sleeping, so
Darn. I tried to read
you
that
don't
and it
need
didn't
sleep.
work.
you did listen to the story about his mom and dad, now didn't you?
Yeah, right.
The it's really hard to fool the shaman.
I know.
Especially when it's sneaky and devious as I am.
I don't know why I try because I've worked with the shamans before. And
Yeah, well.
it's like, you can't get away with anything.
But
All right.
sometimes it is fun.
Upon
But it
further
doesn't
review,
stop me from trying.
upon further renegotiation and a little bit of whining, you get till the end of the year. And then I bring out the cat o' nine tails with the sharp toe boots.
Oh.
And go,
No, wait a minute.
read.
I don't think that was in the contract. or something.
Other shamanic duties as required.
Right.
Just like an employment contract, right? Other restaurant-related duties as required.
I didn't do a scientific study before I signed the paper.
Okay.
Always read the fine print.
Oh, yeah.
The understanding this is what I want you to get out of this last couple of weeks. That there's a level of rigor, and the time is now. There's someplace we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It all feels imminent.
Yeah, and it's rapidly speeding up. I could feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So in that case, if everything's speeding up, that means your reading is speeding up. We can do October 31.
No, I can't.
Okay.
Let's just say that
End
can
of the year.
be our goal, but we have a little cushion. till the
Well,
end
I
of the
think
year.
it's really reasonable to
That's
read
the
one book a
attorney
month.
negotiating.
If you read one book a month, but these books are going to be really helpful for those of you going through the level 4.
Okay.
See, that was my thing. I wanted to read them by the end of the year to be ready for the level 4.
It would be really helpful.
It'll get you up to speed.
Okay.
And I can't, I mean, I know everything that's in the level 4, and I can't tell you that this book is, chapter of this book is important for this skill in the level 4. It's an overall sum total of where your consciousness is going to be that's important for the level 4. And future work. The level 4 is only important because it's getting us ready for, as a school, as a group, for future work together.
And we could always add the word important work, because it really feels
It
like
feels.
we are really ready to step into the next level.
Nice.
into
It
our
really
power.
feels super
as a
important,
group.
and also it feels like it's critical that we get there.
And not just for us.
Yeah, I
For
mean,
the
We're
world.
working for
Exactly, for humanity.
a bigger audience
Yeah, of course.
who may never know or appreciate what we do.
And that's okay.
but
And we all have to be okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Questions?
Do you have any questions?
I'm asking you if you have any questions. Yeah, I have questions. Did you write your journal last night? Did you?
Yesterday, yes. This morning, no.
Okay. Those are the kind of questions I'm going to keep asking frequently.
That's okay, because really, I learned in college how important journaling is to me. It makes you look at the greater world in, I guess, in more depth, And I learned in college by writing a journal, there's always something new and amazing I can see in every single day, which was a really cool lesson for me. So thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Does anybody know who the author Ben Bova is or was? He's probably dead now.
Mm-hmm.
He was a science fiction author. He wrote a lot of good stuff. I remember reading him when I was still in grade school. It's one of the many things I read, like Lord of the Rings and Charles Dickens, when everybody in Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, when everybody else is reading Dr. Seuss. And I was in a college class. It was one of those newfangled seminar class being co-taught by multiple teachers from multiple disciplines, all approaching one subject. It was quite good. I like that model a lot. And one of the teachers, who's actually one of my favorite physics professors, as an undergrad, he probably was my favorite physics professor. He quoted something by Ben Bova, I think it was Ben Bova, that by the time they're 21, some huge percent, like 85% of people have all their opinions solidified for their whole life.
Oh, that's
that they
scary.
stop learning.
It's sad.
And
It's really scary.
what really brought that home to me was at the time I was in that class, I was 21. And I had become very aware, acutely aware of how much I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh man, how are they doing that? Oh, I gotta figure this out. And they're saying that the vast majority of people in the world, by the time they're 21, they're done learning. They just keep repeating what they know
That's
the rest
amazing.
of their life. And I was so horrified by that possibility. That could, I'm not letting that happen. I think I went out the next day and bought a book just to read some, or maybe it was a library, just to read something new. I can't help this happen. And I've been doing it ever since. So that was when I was 21. I'm in my late 50s now. So
I'm having some technical difficulties. For some reason, when I went to make a comment, I logged in as your personal login, and now I don't see the rest of the chat. So if people are asking questions, I can't really see that.
let me step away from the camera, or you can switch to the other camera, and let me drive and see if I can figure this out.
It's called teamwork.
You want to sit here?
No, I need to stand up for a little while.
Stretch your legs.
Oh.
Look at this.
Yeah, I have no idea how that happened. Oh. That's not what I was going for, but
that's some powerful energy work.
This feels like the swelling's down. Does it feel like it to you?
What'd you do?
I have a spring.
She fell on her arm
The
again.
shoulder, the sand gave out, and I tried to catch myself, and I fell right on my left shoulder, which was bothering me anyhow.
I have no idea what happened. I just went to go to the comment field, and it says I was logged out, so I logged in. And
Blame Rico.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
really.
I don't know what you clicked. I've got the chat back.
Did you? Okay. Is it broadcasting?
Seems to be. The chair's now empty, and I watched myself get up and walk away. Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, gang.
All right, we're back. There's a thing in there to switch accounts, but I'm not sure how you accidentally
Yeah,
go
I don't know,
into
you
it.
never. That's weird. You sat down and there's nobody in the chair.
No, it should come back. It should be back
There it
about
is.
now.
There he is. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what, about a 4-second delay, something 5-second delay.
Yeah.
So, back to questions. Anyway, I was horrified, and so I'm gonna. So that's what we're talking about here. So ABD is not one of the required books. There's no required order. You read what you're interested in. You go in the direction you, and over time we hope that you fill in all the gaps.
Right.
And if I see a gap, I will tell you that okay.
You need
You have
to
a
read.
math phobia. You need to read some of these books, like 30 years at Shook Physics or the Dancing Wooly Masters, and you need to go fill in math and a little bit of science. Or I may tell you that, oh man, you're not, your left brain and your right brain aren't linking. You need to learn to play music, or you need to do some art.
Yeah, you told all of us before that to play something.
Play something. Learn an instrument. I can't make you do it. I can encourage you to do it.
That's actually one of the things EJ recommends is he says we should all play guitar. There's something in there that working with the chords and stuff, that just going through that learning process is really helpful for developing consciousness.
He plays the bagpipe.
I do the bagpipes. I haven't done them much lately. I do them occasionally. Not
He threatens us.
The coolest thing happened one time when I was in Santa Cruz at the beach. There was a guy way at the end of the pier, or the cement pier, in full kilt and everything.
Wow.
Bagpipe. I sat there for 2 hours listening to him, and he was beautiful.
Wow. That's pretty
I'm not that good. I'm getting there, but I'm not that good yet. So we're going somewhere. I can't tell you where yet. You need.
Is that you can't or you won't?
Yes.
I
could. I know what the tasks are that we need to do.
It's the shaman thing.
But I'm not going to tell you.
Everything's in the mystery.
And there's reasons for why you're not told yet. But I can tell you in broad brush strokes, maybe when we're offline and everybody's here in person sometime soon. But yeah, there's stuff coming. And we have to be capable of certain things. I mean, one of the little things we're doing are these daily meditations. How many are people still doing the 7 a.m. meditations?
7 a.m.?
7 p.m. It was the 7, remember?
You vaguely mentioned
Okay.
Yeah, the 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. I call it 7-7.
Okay.
We're doing a meditation to change the human consciousness field. And what you do is you get in your meditative position and you envision getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you're holding the whole world between your hands, and you're seeing the pink field around it that represents the human consciousness field in concert with the planetary field. And you send the Akadwa energy to it with the message, God lives, love is the answer, we are all one.
You did tell me that.
I could send it to you.
The second phase of that is send energy to Mount Shasta with the same message, asking to send it to all the other sacred sites. I've expanded, I can't limit it to just 7, so I'm doing about 10. And then from there, every now and then there's like a pulse that goes out through the whole ley line grid. You feel it boom. And the third phase, and phase 2 and 3, you don't have to do each every day. You can do either or, whatever works for you, is the trees. The trees form a living grid work over the whole surface. And you pick your favorite tree, and you send it to the tree, and ask that the trees send it everywhere to all the other trees, and the other mountains and the other trees are going to radiate this message.
And by it, you mean the Akadwa and the message.
Yeah, Akadwa message. It's in engineering terms, we're multiplexing the data of God lives, love is the answer, we are all one, onto a subcarrier wave of Akadwa.
That's to change the matrix for humanity.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're changing the collective consciousness, and that's how we're defeating a lot of stuff.
And that's why we have to get up to par, because of the dark forces.
You get it? Now say that again.
Well, because as our light gets bigger, the darkness is going to get bigger too. So we have to be like up to warrior speed, and to be able to handle the next level.
Well, kinda. I see what you're saying. It's true that when you start waking up and the light bulb gets brighter it will attract the attention of the dark side. And this is one of the reasons why staying connected to a lineage is so important. So if there's ever a time where there's something comes up that I can't handle, I have a whole lineage behind me. And they go, never mind. So it's like they see who we're connected to. And it's like flashing the right gang sign.
Right.
They see that, oh, that's those Toltecs. I need to be over here right now. I'm going to leave this one alone. Right? That goes on. I've only had to do psychic battle 3 times so far since I opened the school. And I've only had to kill and eat 1.
Kill and eat. Wow. And how long ago did you open the school?
It's over a year ago now.
Okay.
So it happens that they come, they look and then they run away.
Okay.
No,
So
we're constant.
Champion, we don't have to kill and eat, right?
Yeah, not yet.
Thank you.
No, you're under my protection as the head of the school.
And under the whole lineage.
And I'm connected way up. We trace our way back in time and up in the planes. You know? And that's why we have to maintain our purity. So that we're pure in our intent. We're doing this for the benefit of all beings everywhere, not just the cool kids, even the nerds. We're protected.
And it's also for the earth and 4-legged, 2-legged,
Absolutely.
3-legged.
You know, if we didn't say all
thin
humans,
ones. Yeah.
we said all beings.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is real. Okay, I want to make that clear. We're in a spiritual war. That's what this is. That's part of what we call the great work. The spiritual war part isn't even the main focus of the great work. It's much bigger than that. You know, it's like we're marching from here to here across the continent, and occasionally there are mosquitoes who want to eat us. Sometimes they may be big mosquitoes. Maybe it's other wild creatures trying to eat us. And we have to stop, and it's like, oh, that must be one of those grizzly bears that I've heard so much about. And you have to deal with the grizzly bear or something else that wants to eat you. And so you stop, you deal with it, you keep going. But that's more of almost an annoyance. Yeah, there's an organizing dark force out there. And we've got more on our side than they have on theirs. And we have to avoid all the temptations to fall off the bandwagon and take the easy way out. It's like Yoda was trying to convince Luke in the Star Wars series. It's like the dark path, the dark side of the force is easier and quicker, but in the end it's no stronger than the light side of the force. And we have an objective. And advancing humanity is, in a real big picture, that's part of the objective. So, anyway, any other questions?
I have one, and it's not a huge one, or it's not hugely important to me, but I feel like our connections that we make here as a family is deeper than like time space. So the question I have is, in the future, should my path take me to, another state or another country, we still can maintain connection, correct?
We call it pogging.
Pogging.
POG stands for Pack of Green. It's a term we got from EJ and his use of the video game Diablo 2. And when your group is working together on the screen, you're all represented by a green dot, and the goal is to stay together. And you attack the dragons.
Whatever.
I tell you, the Japanese, they pog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cultural.
The whole group goes. I mean,
why it's tough for Americans is we have a 300-year history of being the anti-pog culture. We're fiercely independent. We value our freedom and individuality, and there's great things come of that, because you have to understand that no great advancement ever came about by staying in the box. To a certain extent, pogging, you can run the risk of staying in a box of your own creation. And I would say, having spent a lot of time around Asian cultures and in Asia, that their pogging is being very careful to stay in the box. They have an expression in Japan that says the nail that sticks up gets hammered back in place. Okay, no, you're going to stay right there in that little box. Right? And I wrote a poem once, maybe I'll share it sometime, but one of the lines is, people are not nails to be hammered back in place.
oh, beautiful.
And yeah, I think I'll share that poem next time. Can you take a note for me to dig out my nail poem? I couldn't grab it quickly right now, otherwise I would do it now. I know exactly what color the notebook is in. And I just saw it because I moved things around, which is scary because now I don't 100% know where it is. So the key is, if we're going to pog, we can't stay in the box. When somebody asks us about staying in the box, what's the right answer?
Nope.
Box? What box?
Exactly.
That one. What box? What's a box?
Exactly.
No, but we have objectives and we work towards them together and we pog. And when you get a little more advanced with the Akadwa, okay, remember, the force equations don't have distance in them.
No.
Distance cancels out. Hello, Sitlamina. And so we can connect
Hi, pretty girl.
with each other as a school no matter where we are. I'm down in the Bay Area and I'm pogging and connecting with Bonnie. And she's with me. And there's this connection, very strong, because that's what we do. We
Well,
pog.
we're always together.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened on the Benicia Bridge.
Yeah.
The Benicia.
I thought about
Yeah.
that, but I didn't come home that way. So I
You
took a
know,
different
what
route.
happened on the Benicia Bridge, before I got in the car in Santa Cruz, I activated the Akadawa, and, you know, I did a meditation. I asked for the Toltec ancestors to come and keep me safe and everyone on the roads safe. So I'm driving along and I'm fussing around with a CD player at the Benicia Bridge. There's a line that you pay your $5. And all of a sudden this dome of light comes down and over the car, and I see this body, like, you know, a flash of lightning, I mean that fast, and I knew it was Bonnie, come from the right. Then Arlen came down as a huge golden eagle of light, the biggest thing you ever wanted to see. Then Coyote the Blind showed up, and all of a sudden I'm very lightly rear-ended.
I mean, it could have been much worse.
Yeah,
Obviously, yeah.
yeah,
The
Yeah.
protection kept it from being much worse.
yeah. I mean,
Nice.
it happened right before I got rear-ended.
Wow.
And, I mean, how did Bonnie and Arlen and Coyote the Blind know that that was happening?
You called it the lineage.
Yeah, I called it the lineage.
Lovely.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
I
So
love that.
yeah, I mean, there's ways of doing all of this.
Good.
What we have at our disposal with the Akadwa is so powerful, and so many people don't understand what they have. And I think more and more people are finally starting to get it. Some of other Coyote students, some of our students are like, oh, there's these waking up process. And partly that's just, we're starting to hit a critical mass of Akadwa holders, and partly it's the Akadwa and what its source is. You know, it's time. It was delivered to humanity in mass at this time by design. Our lineage held this in secret for 1,000 years.
I have a question. Is it, I don't know how to put this in words quite, but I mean, it must have some intelligence to itself to know where you're at and where the group's at, and kind of calibrate to that, the Kiowa.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making sense with
No, I understand what you're saying. You have to remember what the source of that intelligence is. You know, the names of the Akadwa are, the translation of Akadwa is, there's two ways that could be translated. One is innermost light. That's probably the most common one. The other is unity uttermost shown. So this is a light that emerges from within us that is directly connected to that highest unity in the universe.
So that
The one
light
source.
must get stronger and bigger at times.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on where one is at and what they're doing, what tools they're using, what's being activated, like is it Jaguar, is it wind or something? It must have different
Depends on how
levels.
awake they are.
All of that is partly true, yeah. So we talk about the matrix of light. You've seen it.
Oh yeah.
Okay? We've seen it. You may or may not have seen it yet. But I think of it as a subset of the background energy field in the universe, which physicists call the quantum field. In ancient China, this was called the Qi field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Ayurvedic term may have been in India, or if they even had. I'm sure they have that
I'm sure they do
concept. Coyote would know that. He's initiated in one of
So
those lineages.
the prana is.
Well, prana is analogous to Qi.
Mm.
Right.
The field of Qi, maybe they just call it the field of prana. I don't know. Yeah. That's our
She has
cat.
no shame. This is her rug.
That is.
Yeah, she's
sharing.
upset that I just brought this from upstairs down here. So this has been hers.
She's coming to claim.
Because she's the upstairs cat. She hangs out there more. And Lamina, the white one, where there's more of the downstairs cat. And so the upstairs rug is going downstairs because it's going to get cleaned here soon.
Leading to confusion.
Yeah.
And she is Jaguar girl, so she has claims
so
to the
she
Jaguar
needs the
rug.
rug.
Yeah.
So this Akadwa is so powerful. It because of what its source is, there is an innate intelligence to the Akadwa, and yeah, it's been held in reserve, in hiding for 1,000 years, specifically to be released now. Coyote was directed to release it in 2007. That's now almost 12 years ago. And the reason is to support what humanity needs right now. So it is growing, it is expanding. Mm-hmm. This is why we need more level 3s out there in the world, which is why we need more level 4s. This is why I'm teaching this class in January for level 4.
And you have 3.
Still, I want to Yvonne's question is, I think think of us as receivers. So if we don't turn on our receiver when we're out traveling, let's say that Patricia goes on vacation for 2 weeks and she's out of town, she can still pog with us,
right?
And you know, but we've all got to be turning on our antennas to connect,
right?
So a lot of it seems like it has to do with the consciousness work.
It's your consciousness work, which is why I keep harping on it. It's your intent, which is why I keep harping on that.
Mm-hmm.
You have an intent to POG. I went 350 miles south with an intent to POG and connect with Bonnie the whole time. And we did. She's going to go somewhere someday and won't be in the same room with us. And we will have that intent to POG. So I regularly tune in and see who's doing what. It's like, really? You're doing what?
Why?
So this was and is the double secret magic weapon of the Toltecs. This has been developed, the Akadu has been developed to a higher degree and a higher level of refinement than any of the other systems of subtle energy, whether it's chi or prana or anything else. And we have a better description and thus better techniques for how to use it than any other system. And I'll have more to say about that in the level 4 class.
Cool. So you said innermost light, and what was the other?
Unity, uttermost shown.
It's also called the power, right?
Well, that's what the translation of what the Toltecs used to call it was they simply called it the power. And it's, there's other reasons why Coyote selected the name Akadua from various lineages when he released it. There's reasons for that. I've talked about him before. He's talked about him. It's written. I'm not going to belabor that right now tonight. So use the Akadua with everything you do. And everything you do will get better. That's the only other piece of advice I have for you tonight. Just keep using it, use it more. If you think you've used it enough, use it more. If you think it's as strong as you can use it more.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay, I think that's it. We're going to fade out and we'll see you next week.
I think that's the Akadua kitty.
Oh, they both have the Akadua.
Oh.